Thank you. I'd just like to thank you for the invitation to be on this podcast. My name is Alex Newman. I presently work as the Associate Dean Faculty at Melbourne Business School, which is part of the University of Melbourne. So my day job is the academic management of around 45 faculty at Melbourne Business School, but I also do teaching and research. I'm very active in the research space, and I do research predominantly in organizational psychology behavior in the context of organizations. So I look at, for example, research on leadership, research on organizational psychology, also research in the area of ethical decision making, and also in the area of entrepreneurial psychology. So my research interests are quite wide, and recently I'm doing a lot of research in the space of careers scholarship. So I'm looking at the factors that influence people's career outcomes at work. That's a very difficult question. I think effective leadership is very context dependent. So for me, it's about adapting your leadership approach to suit the specific context you're working in, and adapting your leadership approach to suit who you're interacting with. So the way I lead might differ depending on which industry I'm in, and also the people that I'm interacting with. So I will lead differently, I will respond differently to different people, and I don't respond to everybody in the same way. So I adapt my leadership approach to the individual that I'm dealing with and to the specific context. So I don't think there is a right answer about effective leadership. I know there's been a lot of research done about different leadership styles. I've done research, for example, into servant leadership, transformational leadership. But for me, I think you have to adapt the leadership approach to suit the organizational context. I do think there are some characteristics that define good leaders. I think good communication, I think good role modeling appropriate behaviors. These are some fundamental characteristics of leaders. Providing support to your subordinates. So a lot of factors really play into what is successful leadership. I also, when I teach leadership to MBA students, I also talk about emotionally competent leadership. So the ability to show empathy, compassion, active listening is an important skill, and emotional intelligence. So I think it is incumbent upon leaders to learn those skills around being an emotionally competent leader, listening, and also showing empathy and compassion for your followers. So there are some skills that I do focus on when I do leadership training, but I don't think you can say there's any one good thing that defines a leader. It's a very complex phenomena. Another sort of challenging question, thank you. I think the leader sort of sets the stall for the rest of the team and really figures out who does what in the team. So you have, in any team context, you have a variety of different people with different skill sets, and it's the role of the leader to identify different skill sets amongst different individuals and allocate work according to those skill sets. So you may have a mixture of different personalities in the group. So it's finding a way for everybody to work together in an effective manner and make the best use of different capabilities and skill sets amongst individuals. So as I mentioned before, I think leaders set the tone through communication, through understanding their subordinates. In some team contexts, you might not have enough people in your team to do the work required, and you might, as a leader, might have to actually get engaged in that sort of, the work that your subordinates and get your hands dirty. So I really think it's incumbent upon the leader to assess the team, assess the capabilities, figure out how to allocate resources, and then figure out what they need to do to push the team forward. They're very, very important questions. So I've published on the topic of psychological safety, as you mentioned. I think, again, leaders, it's about role modeling appropriate behaviors. And one of those is through encouraging people to speak up and share ideas. So when I think of psychological safety, I think of psychological safety in relation to two things. One is providing suggestions and sharing ideas, and the other one is the ability to sort of challenge situations that people aren't comfortable with. So calling out unethical behavior, calling out harassment. So that's psychological safety in relation to some sort of negative activity. The other is around that positive aspect, around offering new ideas and offering, new ways of doing things and suggestions. So I do encourage my subordinates to speak up and share their ideas, but also call things out where they're not comfortable or they feel that someone has done something. So it's about psychological safety in relation to all aspects of work. It's about creating a safe space where you allow people to contribute, but also signal if they're uncomfortable or if there's something that's worrying them. So psychological safety is multifaceted, but it's important to create those safe spaces for people to share, especially people from what would have been labelled marginalised or disadvantaged groups in the workplace. Maybe that's a sort of gender groups, maybe it's people from different ethnic backgrounds, but it's often providing spaces for the people who are maybe not as comfortable at speaking up in a group, to maybe younger people as well, to provide a safe space for everybody to contribute. And with more people contributing and putting diversity of thought and diversity of ideas does contribute to team and organisational outcomes. For me, in any meeting context, I don't want the sort of senior people to speak up. So in meetings, it's often the professors that do all the talking. And we have junior staff who've just joined the organisation, and many of them feel a bit uncomfortable to speak up. So there are several ways in which I've tried to encourage. I say, well, listen to the assistant professors first, or we'll listen to junior colleagues first and get their ideas before we go to the professors. So I do give an opportunity in meetings for everybody to voice their opinion, and I try and go around and ask people who maybe not traditionally put their hand up to voice an opinion. I ask their opinion specifically. You can also have informal mechanisms of getting people's ideas and voice. So you can send around a survey, you can pop into their office and talk to them and ask for their suggestions in an informal, confidential setting. So as a leader, I think it's important to develop multiple ways in which people are able to share their ideas and concerns with you, both in a formal and non-formal settings. Yeah, I think it's one of numerous things that can be done to support the mental health of employees. For me, I think it's flexibility. It's creating a safe space in which employees are able to voice and share their issues. So, like any manager, I have employees who have a lot of personal things going on at home. Maybe it's ill health, maybe it's their children, maybe there's something else going on in their lives. They're going through a tough time with their marriage. And other things. So things going on all the time. People have, ill health. People face stress for a number of different reasons. But I want people to alert me to the fact that they're going through these things so we can be accommodating as possible. So if you've got a lot of family issues, maybe I won't be assigning you teaching at a certain time in the day. And we do a lot of weekend teaching. Maybe you prefer weekend teaching because it helps you with your flexible work arrangements, picking kids up from school. So I would like to sort of offer as much flexibility as possible to my staff, but I can only do that if I know what the employee is facing at home, what situation they're going through. If you have a health issue, maybe we can reduce your teaching for the period of time. There are other ways we can support you, maybe through assigning you a counsellor. So unless you create a safe space which people are able to share those issues, you're not going to be able to support them in an effective way. Surprising finding on my leadership research. So I've done a bit of research recently around what we call unethical pro-leader behavior. It's why do people do unethical things for the benefit of their leader? And that kind of research is quite interesting, that people are prepared to engage in an ethical behavior if it benefits their leader. The other piece of research that I've done is around servant leadership and why it leads people to engage in improved behaviors in the workplace. And we found it was predominantly through they wanting to pay back the positive treatment of the leader rather than their learning from the leader. So we looked at two different explanations, and we found it was one explanation that seemed to provide more of the explanation as to why servant leaders have a positive impact on their employees at work, rather than it wasn't a social learning theory didn't seem to be the most important theory. It was more of a social exchange perspective. People felt the obligation to reciprocate positive treatment rather than learning from the leader. So that was an interesting finding. So there's quite a lot about leadership in AI and how leaders are going to manage leading in this AI future. And will we need leaders, or will we have AI bots that do the leading for us and make decisions? So there's some research that says AI can make better decisions than leaders. But I disagree. I think it's important to have that personal touch. I don't think AI would have my sense of humor and my ability to manage complex human behaviors. So I think I'm actually doing a bit of research now about leadership and humanity and humane virtues. And we talk about empathy, compassion, care, forgiveness, and love, or non-romantic love at the workplace. And we're talking about these issues, and really, can AI have these sort of human elements in an effective manner? Is that going to be more effective than a human leader? I don't think so. I don't think we can replicate these kind of elements. I think we can use AI for a lot of mundane tasks, but if you don't have that personal connection at work, what is the point of having a workplace? So for me, I think leadership is still valued. I went to a conference on AI and leadership, and people are saying that AI can do all that. AI will take over from humans. We'll be sitting on a beach and AI will be doing everything and just relaxing and enjoying our lives. But I have serious doubts whether AI is actually going to be that well trained to be able to replace leaders. So maybe we won't have university lectures, it'll all be done by avatars and computers in the future. But people were worried when we had the internet, people were worried when we had our first computers, that technology would take over. I see technology as a device that we can use to improve our leadership and to make our leadership more effective and more efficient. I don't see it as a substitute for leadership. I see it as a complement for leadership. So there's a lot being written about AI and leadership, and I'm interested to see what the future research says, but I always think positively about the future, and I'd like to think that AI is going to be of use to leaders rather than a substitute for leadership.
Lead and innovate.